Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2. That's right, number 2. We made it past the first one. I'd like to go ahead and thank everyone who tuned in to the very first episode last week. I want to send a huge thank you to Iris Thomason, the branch manager at the Juno Power Financial, for taking the time to do that with us. This week, again, this is Cafecito and Money Talk, the segment where we empower your financial future starting today. Now, as you can see, I don't have Iris with me this time. I have somebody else. Sir, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Javier Saborio. I am the VP of Retail for Power Financial Credit Union. Thank you for having me, Pedro.
Right on. We have the VP in the house today. How long have you been in the financial industry?
Almost 20 years, almost 16 with Power Financial Credit Union. My anniversary is actually coming up in September.
It's coming up. Wow. So you must have a sea of knowledge when it comes to most of the matters within the financial industry.
Yes, we get to see a little bit of everything every day.
Perfect. Hopefully you could, I guess, shine some light on today's topic. Speaking of which, today's topic is going to be on debt. Now, I'm sure you know debt is a huge topic, and I'm sure there's a lot to kind of delve into that. But we're gonna keep it a little simple this time. Maybe we'll go into in depth on it on a different segment later on. But I think I'm gonna start off by giving an example of my experience with debt. As long as I can remember, my mom's always been telling me, stay away from debt. That whatever you do, don't know anybody, don't know anything, any money.
That's good advice.
Well, it's been sticking. She's been driving it into me quite a bit. And for the most part, I listened.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, sooner or later, you know, if you want to build credit, somebody told me at the time that the best way is to get a credit card. And that's kind of, I guess, a way to build credit, but that's also a way to get into debt real deep. Well, I kind of fell into the pitfall of the credit card debt, and I was in it for quite a bit of a cycle, you know, because credit cards get you where interest free for like the first year, but then after that, interest starts piling up, and I was the person that just made minimum payments. So at the end of the month, that was insignificant. You know what I mean?
Right.
So eventually I was able to pay off that debt. Nowadays, the debts that I deal with are things like student loans and the car payment.
And car payments.
So, and to combat those, there was a point where a couple years ago it was piling up on me. It would help when I would get my income tax, but it would surely like climb back up. So some of the steps that I took to kind of combat the debt was I eventually ended up just cutting out the fat. Right now I'm looking at trying to refinance my vehicle to lower the payment as well. So, and you know, those are some of the things that I did. Now I mentioned to Iris in the last segment that I'm not the most financially literate person. So Javier, you with your sea of knowledge, but what would you say is the verdict on debt? Is there such thing as good debt and bad? Because we all perceive debt to be bad, but I've also heard that it could be good. So what are your thoughts on that from a professional standpoint?
Right. So absolutely, our parents really do a really good job at advising us and leading us and telling us to stay away from that. When I speak to most individuals that I speak to, they really got the advice just like you and me, but we weren't taught how to stay away from it. Like we were taught the advice, don't owe any money, don't get into debt, but we were not shown how to actually not go into debt.
Like we were just given like a general idea.
Right, absolutely. No, we were just given the advice, but no instructions. So, I guess we can get into that later in the segment. But to answer your question, good and bad debt. So,
well, let's start with the good first, because we all want to know about good.
So there are gonna be some items that you want to buy that you can't just pull the money out of your account and pay for it, like a home. So with that, you will need a mortgage. We provide mortgages for our membership. The idea is that you want to have a mortgage that you can definitely afford and that you can pay off at some time. Um, a lot of us have the mindset that we're always probably going to have a mortgage, and it is possible not to have a mortgage if you pay it off. So,
The mentality among people that I
mm-hmm.
know is they don't even want to get into a mortgage
Yes,
because of the whole thing with debt, and
right.
because so many people perceive it to be so scary. So they say, well, you know what? I'd rather save up my money
Mm-hmm.
and just buy the house outright. So what would you say to that?
I would say if you have the ability to do that, go for it. A lot of people, depending on their housing situation and the stage of their life, they may be able to do that. So if you're a recent college grad and you have the opportunity to stay at home to pay off your student debt and then maybe save for a sizable down payment or even enough money to buy a condo or your first home, go for it.
But they
Absolutely.
don't. But they shouldn't shy away from like if
No.
debt is attached to like getting a home or getting a
Hmm.
car or whatever. I mean, how what how do you go about it where you don't? I guess you dig yourself a hole.
Well, what generally happens is you have an amount of money coming in and you have an amount of money going out. And where people do get into problems is when there's lack of budgeting. And there's just money coming in and money flowing out, and you have an idea of how much you make and how much you spend, but you don't really know. So what happens is you start compromising your income, and then you start shopping based on payment, not on the whole price or the big picture. And then before you know it, most of your income is dedicated to paying debt service, and you don't really have any money left over for investing or saving for emergencies, and that's where we see people get into problems.
And you want to make investments because that's one of
Right.
those things that's like actually a good debt to have is making it like if you go out and buy a set of apartments or something
Yeah.
like that.
So our income is our biggest tool to build wealth. And if we are paying all of our income to debt service and maybe really high rates, we are giving up that valuable tool, and it's keeping us from building wealth.
By using up all our income on like frivolous spending. So that's like the
Correct.
negative
Mm-hmm.
aspects of debt is when you get to that point where like you max out your credit cards, where you take on more debt than you can afford, where you're just spending
Mm-hmm.
frivolously. So what solutions would you give to the viewers like as a professor like
Mm-hmm.
to combat that
Okay,
kind of debt?
so the first would be kind of like preventive medicine. So you don't get into it in the first place. So it would be have a budget. Write down how much money comes in monthly, how much money goes out monthly, and what is your variance? What is the amount of money that you have left over? And then um, save that money. And remember, the budget is a tool, is your friend. A lot of people are afraid of budgeting because they think, oh my God, I'm really going to see how much I'm spending. But it's not. It actually gives you a clear picture of the money that you have available, your cash flow for the month. And you may also find out when you budget that you do have a lot of money. And then you can give that money a purpose. You can dedicate that money to paying the existing debt service that you have down. You can save up for a rainy day, meaning an emergency fund, or you can start investing for your retirement, or you can begin to just save money. So eventually, when you have a big ticket item coming due, you don't have to go and borrow again. Or if you do it on your own terms and you have time to shop for the best possible rate and you can look into a solid financial institution dedicated to helping people such as Power
That,
Financial Credit Union.
that way you're not constantly digging yourself like into those holes. So
Yes, because if you're overextended, your solution will be to borrow again. And you'll keep digging and digging till you just kind of
and
find
that's
yourself
and
so
that's
overextended.
and that's true because I remember when when I paid off most of that credit card debt, I would get, you know, promotions from my banks and stuff like.
It's very tempting,
You
yes.
can increase your credit line now. I'm like,
And how do you feel when you get those? You feel important, right?
a little bit,
You,
just a little
yeah,
bit.
you're like, man, I
Yeah,
qualify.
yeah.
I'm good.
I qualify.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, I could do a lot of things with this script, but that's not your money. And
Correct.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what brings me back to reality. So, no, but I mean, saving and budgeting. I mean, that's definitely the way to go. And it seems like it would be common sense to do. But what would you say are like things that deter most people from doing that?
To me, there was a time that I didn't budget. I thought I had things under control. I was like, hey, it's natural. I knew I had this amount of money coming in, and mentally, I kind of knew what was going out. But the biggest thing is that you don't really know. There's going to be some things in your budget that eat it up, and that basically they're just eating up your money, and you don't know. It could be food, it could be eating out, it could be happy hour, it could be, you know, it could be,
especially going out.
yeah, it could be an expensive recreation, or, you know, you could be into many things that just cost a lot of money to do. And if you're not writing it down and tracking it, you really don't know that you're really spending a huge portion of your income into that category.
Yeah,
But when you budget, you really see it and you see the full picture. Budgeting does not have to be complicated. You can really do it on a piece of paper. You can do it on an Excel sheet if you like. Power Financial Credit Union has on our mobile app a money management tool that allows you to kind of see the picture. It tells you where your money goes, the categories. So when you're on the go, you can just go, hey, wait a minute, how much have I spent this month? And you can pull it up and you can see how much went to housing, to transportation, to, you know, groceries, and so on and so forth.
So that aspect of organization is a big deterrent from you know.
Yes. So to your point, everything in life that's worth doing, it's generally not easy, and it takes time. So you have to invest this time into your budgeting until it becomes kind of a good habit. So basically, the first few times it'll be a little tough because you really, you know, most people don't even know all their expenses. So you have to kind of track it. First good step is going to be list all the payments that you make that month and the date that they go out. Because, you know, generally our money doesn't come in all at once. So it comes in like you get your first paycheck, you know, at this time and the second one. So you can actually do a weekly budget. So you know when those bills come in, you need to pay them and what's going to be left over from that one paycheck. And you start getting organized. A good wake-up call for me was that one day I did a monthly budget of everything, of all my payments and obligations like food, everything, you know, and how much was left over. And then I multiply that by 12 months.
And it adds up.
And then you see your whole year of expenses, and then you see your whole year of income, and you really see how much money you're spending. You really see how much money you really do make. You know, it may be a little, it may be a lot. But then you say, hey, you know, I made this much money. Why do I have this left over? So then you can trim down on the categories that are really unnecessary. And then you can put that money to savings or to pay down debt service. And just kind of live better because now you know what's coming in, what's going out. When an expense or an urge comes up to spend, you know that this is what you have to work with. So if you get into this new obligation, it's going to affect this and that. And then now you go, that $300 car payment is not really $300. It's $3,600 a year. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's the best way to look at it, especially as a whole.
That's a whole year, so you know what you're really getting into.
I think we're going to end right there. Javier, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate you and getting your insight on today's topic. It really shines a light, you know?
It does. Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure, Pedro.
No problem. And for everybody watching, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions in regards to today's topic, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you have anything you'd like to know within the financial industry, be sure to ask us as well. We're here to help you. This segment is to empower your financial future. So with that, I'll leave you guys. And again, Javier, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And we're signing out. Goodbye.